Don't listen to all the noise and the static out there. Don't listen to the people saying it's a bad time to buy, because trust me, there's always going to be someone saying it's a bad time to buy. And I took his word as gospel and just started buying real estate after every military deployment. I went to the Middle East, came back, bought a condo. Deployed again, came back, bought a condo. Got promoted, bought a house. Got promoted again, bought a duplex. And just kept rolling on up. And by the time I was 39 years old, my wife and I owned like $12 million in real estate.
Sick.
And again, I grew up with really nothing but a paper route. Yep. And my mom and dad didn't come from money. In fact, when I was in high school, we lost our house, had to move in with our grandparents. So I learned what housing and security felt like and how much that can change a family. And that's why I joined the Navy.
Welcome back to Get in the Cashflow Game with K&K, where we talk about investing in real estate, cash flow, building wealth, and all the lessons we learned along the way. And if you can, do me a huge favor, please like and subscribe this podcast, share it with your friends and family. That way we can continue to bring you value every week and get bigger and better guests on the show.
Patrick, what's up, brother? Thanks for coming in. Unfortunately, we had to re-record because we lost the audio last time. Not sure what happened, but
that's okay. I like coming to your office because your office gives me energy.
So sweet. I know you said that. So anyways, Patrick, you got a really cool story, very unique. So love you to kind of just like take us to how you got into real estate. And I know we're going to go through brokerage and investing and buying, but you know, start from kind of like not way back, but you know, kind of.
Well, I like to go way back.
Okay, go way back. Let's go.
I like to go way back because we all started somewhere, and I started growing up in a very small town farming community in North Dakota. Not a whole lot of options. Like a lot of us in real estate, I started working at a young age to get that work ethic. 5th grade, had a paper out, and I've worked every day since. But I enlisted in the Navy straight out of high school with the goal of really getting out of my small town and seeing the world. And while I was a young guy in the Navy, one of my mentors said, Patrick, buy real estate after every deployment, every time you get a new duty station, every promotion. He just said buy real estate as often as possible. And I noticed just as important what he said is what he didn't say. He didn't say, wait for that golden opportunity. He didn't say buy real estate when interest rates are low, when interest rates are high, during recession, after. He said just buy real estate. So what I took from him is don't listen to all the noise and the static out there. Don't listen to the people saying it's a bad time to buy, because trust me, there's always going to be someone saying it's a bad time to buy. And I took his word as gospel and just started buying real estate after every military deployment. I went to the Middle East, came back, bought a condo. Deployed again, came back, bought a condo. Got promoted, bought a house. Got promoted again, bought a duplex. And just kept rolling on up. And by the time I was 39 years old, my wife and I owned like $12 million in real estate.
Sick.
And again, I grew up with really nothing but a paper route. Yep. And my mom and dad didn't come from money. In fact, when I was in high school, we lost our house, had to move in with our grandparents. So I learned what housing and security felt like and how much that can change a family. And that's why I joined the Navy. My wife's a nurse. So on a nurse and a Navy income, we're able to build, a multi-million-dollar portfolio by just doing it. I like to say, as Nike says, just do it.
Yeah. So a lot of our mentors, their line is just get in the game. Just get in the game. Just get in the game. That's what we heard. Get in the game. They're like, because your conversation, like once you get in the game, you do your first deal, the conversation's way different from you just trying to like you said, talk yourself out of buying the first deal, right?
Yep.
It's interesting you say just buy, low rates, that's never a good time. I mean, there's people literally that said in 2010 and 11, this is a bad time to buy real estate.
Yeah.
And you wish you'd have robbed a bank to buy real estate then. It's interesting how people just, you cannot focus on what people are telling you. You have to just get really focused on what you want to do.
I have made the most amount of money off of the real estate I bought during the times when the most amount of people were saying you should not buy.
Yeah.
The Great Recession. I graduated college in 2007. And I bought a lot of the real estate we own. I bought in 2008, 2009, 2012, the bottom of the market.
Wow.
And all my friends were saying I was an idiot back then when I was buying. They were like, man, you're overpaying. How can you buy something for $100,000, $200,000, whatever it was? And they were saying I was an idiot. And those same friends now are saying I was a genius. And the truth is, I wasn't an idiot. I wasn't a genius. Goes back to what Nike says, I just did it. And the only difference I've noticed between wealthy and everyone else is not intelligence. There's a lot of stupid wealthy people, and there's a lot of really smart, hardworking people without wealth. The difference is not so much intelligence, it's taking action. And I don't know why, but our society teaches us, our parents teach us to err towards inaction. Do nothing and you'll be safe.
Yeah, we were, my sister posted something today, which she never really posted. It was something she's saying is it's about kids and like, it's okay to fail. And parents say, like, no, you can't fail. You don't want to fail. It's terrible. Yeah. So then you live your whole life going, well, you shouldn't buy that house because what if this happens? What if that? But what if this happens, right? Yeah. And so I think what you're saying too is like, yeah, you might buy real estate. Something bad might go wrong, or you might look. We've had bad deals. Maybe you have, or maybe you got lucky not. But this doesn't mean it's end all be all. Mm-hmm. One bad deal doesn't mean the rest are going to be all bad. That one bad deal might have taught you all the lessons you need to know to be successful on the next 10 deals, right? And it's funny you say that because one of our mentors here owns thousands of units, all him, all of his money, and people want to go, sit down and talk to these guys, and they think they're going to have some magic recipe. Yeah. They think they're Elon Musk building a rocket ship. They're like, what's the hack? What's the trick? What's the secret? Like, you've got to know something. You must know something that nobody else knows. And they're like, no, I don't. And like I had to say this, but a lot of real estate investors actually are not very smart, bright people. Mm-hmm. And what they've done really well, what they've done well is they just go, they just when nobody was buying, they're like, I'm all in, and they just go for it. They don't care, and they're not studying graphs and charts. They just know, right? And so I had a friend that went and visited him, sat down, he calls me, he goes, Kenny, he didn't give me anything. I said, what do you think he's going to give you? He goes, just keep buying. He goes, that doesn't make any sense. It's just expensive. He goes, well, that's what they told me 20 years ago and 30 years ago and 40 years ago. And those people all said I was an idiot. And now I have thousands of units. And now they think I'm Albert Einstein. He goes, I'm not. I just, what Nike says, I just do. Just do it. Yeah. Just do it.
You were just saying before this that you and your wife try and buy a property every year.
Yeah.
And I've got the same mindset. I've always tried to buy, maybe not every year, but every 2 years as often as I can. That's what I save my money for, not to go buy the next car, but to go buy the next building.
Yes.
And you mentioned too, the perfect deal. My first property I bought, and I always say, you will never get to your 5th property, your 8th property, your 100th property if you don't buy the first property.
Exactly.
And the first property I bought, I didn't want to buy. It was, and it was going to be an owner-occupied condo. I was in my 20s. And it was in a neighborhood I didn't want to live in. It was a unit I didn't want to buy. So everyone's like, well, why'd you buy it then? And it's an easy answer, because it's all I could afford. And your first property, be it a house, be it an investment, it shouldn't be your dream home. It doesn't have to be the perfect investment. The one you can afford, because getting your foot into a small door is a much bigger move than not getting your foot into a door at all. So just go out there and buy whatever it is. A small condo, a house, a 50-unit property, or anything in between, but take action, buy something.
So you're in the military, you leave the military, and then you start, where do you start your career in real estate?
So another decision I made where everyone told me I was stupid for making it. And here's the other thing I've learned. If you listen to everyone, you will end up like everyone. And most people end up, they retire when they're 65, a couple $100,000 in pension, and that's it. You need to learn to not listen to everyone, but identify the extremely successful people and listen to them. Yes. Take what they say as gospel, because they're not there to try and pull wool over your eyes. They're fine without you. Yeah. So I, again, didn't listen to the noise. And at my 11-year point in the military, and as most of you know, you can retire after 20 years. Yeah. So once you get over the 10-year hump, most guys just stay in. At 11 and a half years, I got out of the Navy. And my family, my friends are like, man, you're already over halfway to your retirement. Why are you getting out? Well, I joined the reserves, so I can still do my back 9 in the reserves and retire. I'm still a reservist to this day. But I got out really with the passion to help others do what I did. I, again, being a poor kid from the Midwest, and I guess poor is kind of relative, but I look back now, we didn't have much of anything. A 4-star vacation was a camping trip. And never stayed in hotels or flew planes when I was a kid.
Wow.
My mom still has never been on an airplane. Dude.
Wow.
Like, I'm telling you, very simple
that's
thing.
wild.
Very simple.
Right?
And across the field was a wheat field across the street. So I wanted to transition from the military to help other young people find financial freedom, financial security, and at the end of the day, wealth through real estate investment. Because most people, old people, young people, everybody, most people don't realize how you can really build wealth through real estate ownership, real estate investment, even just owning a house instead of renting. It's the best vehicle, better than the best structured 401k. You have more tax advantages with real estate. So when I transitioned out, I said, well, I don't want to just be some bubba on the street who's like everyone else trying to help you buy and sell real estate. I want to do it intelligently. Because like you said, there are a lot of people in our business that are just good because they have tenacity, but maybe not the intelligence. So I went to UCLA, used my GI Bill to get a MBA with a focus in finance and real estate. Came back down here to San Diego, went to University of San Diego. I got a master's degree, master's of science in real estate. Didn't even know that existed until I applied for it. And then armed with the formal education in it and the practical boots on the ground education of having done it, I built a brokerage team that was initially a team of one, just me. And within 36 months, 3 years, I built a 12-person team that is ranked in the top 1% nationally, closing well over $100 million a year in real estate. And we built that in 36 months.
That's awesome.
And I built that by looking for two things in my team members. Do they own real estate? So 100% of my team owns real estate. And are they smart? Over half my team has master's degrees. They've all been to college. So really smart group. And I love waking up every day knowing that we're going out there helping others build that financial security and wealth the same way we have. And that's really our mission. That's it.
That's a cool story. What is the focus today right now? You know, what's the focus today on your business in the market we're in? We're in 2023. That's where we're filming now. And then what is your focus like personally when it comes to investing in real estate, looking at deals and kind of sizing up the market?
I like to keep my focus simple. Because as we say in the military has a lot of acronyms, and one of them is KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Okay.
So I for 20 years, I've been keeping it simple. Keep your goals simple. And I also like to ensure that they are beyond just you, but to help other people. So every year I put out to my team our 2 goals, and they're always the same. And I take this advice from one of my mentors. And one of my mentors is a guy I've never met. And you can have mentors that you've never met.
Absolutely.
People you follow.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett.
He mentors so many people. I never met him. Yeah.
Right?
It's like
it's well known that he sends out an annual shareholder letter, and it's 1 page. He keeps it simple, running a multi-million-dollar business. So I want every agent on my team to have the ability to make over 6 figures. And I want us to sell over $100 million in real estate, because that gets us what's called a Platinum Award in San Diego. So those are my 2 basic metrics. And I always tell my team every single month, I tell them, look, our job is not to sell real estate. In fact, a lot of times it makes sense not to sell it. You should hold on to what you got and do a cash out refi. I tell our agents, job is not to sell real estate. Our job is one thing, and that's to make our clients wealthy. That's it.
That's awesome.
And with that simple mindset, we don't have to worry about all the noise about what's the next big gimmick, what's the next script that you should memorize. We don't memorize scripts. We have one script. How do we make you wealthy? And we know that is through real estate ownership. So we educate our clients on the tax advantages of real estate. We educate our clients on the tax-free, tax-deferred appreciation of real estate and how you can tap into that through 1031 exchanges, through cash-out refis. We educate. We never sell. In my opinion, if you educate someone on the benefits of real estate and you educate them and do a good job at it, you don't need to sell it. It will sell itself. It's just the best investment out there. So what's my focus this year? Really keep doing what we're doing. Keep it simple too. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And we've grown a lot in the last few years by doing educational webinars, very similar to
everybody loves your webinars. I hear a lot of good feedback from people.
Yeah, we've got a good following on the webinars, and I've attended a lot of webinars, and I'll tell you, and I'm not saying this in a biased way, I think ours has more data charts, graphs, and information
That's
than
what I hear.
just about any other one I've seen. But similar to how you educate by doing podcasts, I educate by doing the webinars. And do we do small pivots now and then? Yeah, there was, loans are always changing. Every month I am updating my market update webinar, which I do every month. It's kind of like a flagship. And there's always new data to keep our clients abreast of what's going on within the market, keep them informed. But we are just doing fine tweaks to this massive ship that's moving forward in the ocean. Any business, when you got a good business model, stick with your model and tweak it. But don't change your model if it's working for you. Just do minor course corrections.
Yeah, I was just at a mastermind 2 weekends ago, and one of the guys that was there actually randomly, crazy story, he just partnered with Crystal's uncle in our business. So it's weird. He was there and he lives here in La Jolla and other places. He started the Witch Sandwich Company.
Oh, I love those sandwiches.
Okay, and he owns 9 other businesses. And so he was there, and I just realized he spends part of time in La Jolla, so it's funny. Yeah. But he was saying kind of the same thing. He goes, why do people, you have this brand, you have this product, and it's working. Why do you have to think you got to go in and change it?
Yeah.
Don't change it. Just leave it. Go, keep going. Like, so they go, no, we got to rebrand it. We got to do this. And it's like, we're kind of all, maybe not you, but sometimes we get guilty of it. But he's like, it's not broken. Just move forward. Focus on getting, keep going forward. You want to, I got to change it. I got to, he goes, and it's so frustrating to see people do that. And you're like, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. And then you got to go back to the old thing, Some
of your longest running, biggest brands, like Ford. How long has Ford been called Ford? How long have they made cars? And sure, they still make cars. They got the same name. They do minor corrections.
Like they got to go electric.
You got to go electric.
They didn't change their name. They didn't change, it's like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of interesting you said that because you said that. It's like, always like get people's perspective because that is the problem is we are in a real estate environment where you're right. Things are moving a little bit, but it's not crazy. The ship's still sailing in the same direction, but you might have to go here or there, but it's not like you're going backwards or this or that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about San Diego because that's where we are and we love it here. We were just down at the city council meeting yesterday, Crystal, and it's like you got the tenants, you got the landlords, and you got the politicians, and at the end of the day, we all realize like we're blessed to be in a city like this. There's so much opportunity here, and the problem is that we've got a lot of people that want to be here, and we do not have enough housing, and also the people that want to move here, they're like, how do I afford it, right? Yeah. So we could take a person, because you guys help a lot, somebody in the military. And I think we were talking, I was talking to somebody the other day, I said, they didn't even know what a house hack was. Somebody's like, what is that? I said, look, not everybody that moves here is not, I want the house and this. That's not a thing anymore. And they go, why? I go, well, a lot of people have gotten educated, whether it's Bigger Pockets or podcasts or your webinar or whatever it is. People are learning and they're realizing, okay, I can buy this house stuff, but now I'm house poor. Then I can't go travel. Or what if I get shipped overseas or this? And they want options, right? So the house hack we kind of say is buy a 4-unit with 0% down and let somebody else pay your mortgage, Do you kind of have some situations and that you kind of help clients with? And why do you think a place like San Diego or maybe anywhere else is so good to maybe even buy your first place? It's house hacking rather than just, like you said, trying to buy that first dream home to impress everybody,
The best way to answer this question is with case studies, real world examples, and you're making me think of 3 clients. One I helped about 4 years, one I helped 2 years ago, and one that I met last night.
Whoa, okay, that's crazy. Okay, that's random.
Because there's different types of house hacking, right? And there's different reasons to do each. The one 4 years ago, it was a young lady, she's in her 20s, and never bought real estate from Wisconsin, and she wanted to buy her first place. Didn't want to buy a multifamily. I'm like, first of all, do what you want to do. It's my job to show you all the information so you make the best decision. But she wanted to buy a townhome. So we helped her buy a townhome with 4 bedrooms. She lived in 1 bedroom, and she rented out the other bedrooms for $1,000 a piece, which is about the cost of a bedroom in San Diego, $1,000 per month per bedroom. And the $3,000 she had coming in from her other 20-something-year-old friends that were renting from her were covering like 90% of her mortgage. Now, I say San Diego. A lot of people say San Diego is a very expensive city to live in. I say it's one of the cheapest cities to live in if you do it right.
I agree.
Now, as a guy who's bought real estate and lived in what I owned almost ever since I first moved here, the amount I have personally paid month over month over month for the last 15 to 20 years I've lived in San Diego, if you add up how much I've paid every single month for 20 years living in San Diego, you know what number's bigger than that? The amount of appreciation my property has had, the amount of appreciation my house has had. Because in your more expensive cities, you often also have more appreciation.
Oh, for sure.
That's why they're more expensive.
Yeah.
And your appreciation over the long run is typically going to overshadow your monthly and annual payments you make on the mortgage. But sometimes you can truly live for free immediately, which is case study number 2. Young enlisted Marine Corps veteran, the pandemic hit, the sky's falling, everyone's telling him you shouldn't buy. And I looked at the kid and I said, look, Warren Buffett, that should be your mentor, just like he is mine. Warren Buffett says, when everyone is being greedy, be fearful, and when everyone's being fearful, be greedy. Let's go buy you a fourplex. So we bought him a fourplex for $1.2 million.
Wow.
The guy's in his 20s.
I can tell you that's a good deal. I don't even need to know where it is.
This is 2020, right? And the guy's in his 20s, mid-20s, and the 3 other units, he lived in one of the units, used his VA loan, so he bought it with 0% down. So he bought a $1.2 million asset, 0% down. He's living in unit number 1. He's renting out the other 3 units, and the rents on the other 3 units aren't only covering all of his mortgage. After paying off his mortgage, they're still cash flowing him $500 a month. So here's a kid, I say kid, he's in his 20s. Here's a guy who is getting paid to live in San Diego. And now anyone out there listening might be thinking, well, that's cool. He was getting paid $500 a month to live in San Diego. No, he was getting paid $500,000 to live in San Diego. And you might be wondering, well, how's $500 $500,000? Because San Diego is not a huge cash flow market. And most people have a misconception about cash flow. They think cash flow is only that money you get every month from your tenants. There's multiple forms of cash flow. That is one form of cash flow. And in my opinion, anyone who understands finance and taxes, that is the worst form of cash flow, because cash flow off your monthly checks is taxed at the highest tax rate in America, ordinary income. The best forms of cash flow are those you get tax-free or low tax rates. And cash flow in real estate, my friends, is any time cash comes from the property to you. And that often is through what we call a liquidity event.
Yep.
And a liquidity event could be something like, let's take this kid as an example. Bought it for 1.2. Today it's worth 1.7 million. It has gone up $500,000. He can do a cash out refinance today and pull out $300,000 cash. Pull out a $500,000 cash. Tax free.
Exactly.
I would rather make hundreds of thousands of dollars tax free than a couple $1,000 a month taxable. This is why I invest in San Diego and other coastal markets. I'm from North Dakota. My wife's from Missouri. We know the Midwest inside out. Spent more of my life in the Midwest than I have in California. But I also know, well, the Midwest pays you nice cash flow each month. You're just not going to get the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, of real estate appreciation that you can see in a coastal limited supply market like San Diego. So here's this guy now, still in his 20s, sitting on a $1.7 million fourplex, covering his mortgage and then some. He made $500,000 in his 20s tax-free. And he can pull that out through a cash-out refi. He can take it tax-free through a 1031.
Yep.
Or worst-case scenario, he just sells it and takes the $500,000. And oh, by the way, he lived in it 2 of the last 5 years. So you can take that $500,000 tax-free. If you're married or $250K,
yeah.
As you know, they're looking to double that. But let's say he didn't even live in it. At least he's only getting taxed at the long-term capital gains tax rate, which is like a fraction of what the income tax rate is.
Yeah, they're trying to double that so they can get more listings, right?
500,000 and $1 million, and they should, because it's fixed to like a 1992 figure.
I mean, people have so much equity now; they're not going to sell. Yeah. Honestly, I think certain states should be outlined differently, especially because it's like California. There's people that would sell, but they're like, I'm not going to pay on $3 million, $2 million. You know.
Here's another cool thing about California that people don't realize. My dad called me the other day, and he's like, Patrick, the state of North Dakota, right? He's from North Dakota. They're trying to raise my taxes by like 10% this year, 20%. In most U.S. states, your taxes are not capped. They go up at the rate of appreciation of your property. In the state of California, your taxes, your property can appreciate 5% a year, 10% a year, 8% a year. Your taxes are capped at increasing 2% a year.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of people in Texas. So a lot of people go to Texas, they buy apartment buildings, and they reassess. No, they get reassessed every year. Yeah. So they get the big boys that we know, syndicators. They're like, they have a turn. It is like it's tough because it's hard to predict your cash flow when you're constantly getting hit. And then they also, on top of that, you're in Miami or there, and they've had earthquakes, hurricanes, or tornadoes. I mean, tornadoes or hurricanes, their insurance is having problems. So they've got these variable things constantly going. Even here, I mean, like you said, we do deal with our own issues here, but we're not getting hammered on the property taxes, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And we have the Prop 13, right, where you can transfer
to your children.
Yeah,
families,
which is huge.
And transfer down when you're old, 55 and older, moving down. But no, those are like.
What's your third one? You have your third.
I know.
Oh, okay.
So the two case studies there were someone house hacked a single family, house hacked a townhome.
Get roommates.
The other one, house hacked a fourplex. And then last night I had dinner with a guy, and he also a Navy guy, ironically. And he said, "Hey, I'm an officer in the Navy. I want to buy my first property, and I'm looking at either buying a condo or a multifamily fourplex. And I'm seeing a condo I could buy for like $500,000, $600,000, house hack some of the bedrooms maybe. And I'm looking at a fourplex I could buy for, well over $1 million. And based on his underwriting of the deal, he's going to cash flow more today by buying that condo than he would based on buying these 2, 3, 4 unit properties in San Diego." And I said, yeah, I guarantee you in today's market, you probably would cash flow more because you're buying a $500,000 asset instead of a $1.5 million asset. However, I also guarantee you 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you'll cash flow a hell of a lot more if you buy that multifamily. And he said, why? And we're sitting at dinner, and I pulled out my financial calculator, which is always on my home screen of my iPhone, the HP too, right?
That's awesome.
The financial calculator. And I'm like, let's do a little math. Let's say you own a $500,000 asset, and it appreciates at 6% a year, which is the average rate of appreciation for San Diego going back 35 years. What is that $500,000 asset going to be worth in 30 years? It's something like $1.6 million, $2 million. I forget the exact number. And then I said, okay, let's say you bought a $1.5 million asset. What's that valued in 30 years? The same rate of appreciation. And it was like 2 or 3, not even 2 or 3x. It was like 5 million. It was over 5 million. And it just, I showed this kid how you can make $1 million by buying a $500,000 property that appreciates at 6% a year. You can make millions of dollars by buying a $1.5 million asset that appreciates at 6% a year. And they both are going to appreciate tax-free, tax-deferred, and they both require him, especially being a military vet, 0% down. So if I'm telling you, you can get a $1.5 million investment with 0% down, or you can get a $500,000 investment with 0% down, which one would you take? Most would take the one that's going to grow more with 0% down, but devil's advocate against myself. But Patrick, what if that negative cash flows? What if it negative cash flows $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month? Well, then I ask people this question. Is it intelligent to invest in retirement accounts, 401ks, TSPs, Roth IRAs? Most of us, myself included, would say, as much as I love real estate, retirement accounts are still good investments.
Yeah, I agree.
And it blows my mind how many people will say you should invest in retirement accounts all day long, and the next sentence they say is, but never, ever, ever, ever invest in negative cash flow real estate. It tells me those individuals do not understand accounting. Because if you look at a retirement account, 401k, a 401k is by definition a negative cash flow asset because you are taking your cash and flowing it into ownership every month of someone else's company. Usually you're investing in stocks, right?
Yeah.
The S&P 500. And you are hoping someone else's company goes up in value so that when you turn 59 and a half, you can pull that money out and get taxed on it then instead of now. But a retirement account is by definition negative cash flow. Yeah, it's still on your personal net worth balance sheet, just going from cash to equity ownership of a company that you have nothing to do with. In the same sense, a negative cash flow real estate asset, you might, drop $500, $1,000 into that property every month, negative cash flow because your mortgage or whatever. But once you bake into your principal, once you bake into your appreciation, you'll see your net worth balance sheet is going up. There's years where I couldn't invest in my 401ks because I was maxing out on going into real estate.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Does that math make sense? Does that accounting make sense? Like,
no, I get it. Yeah, smart.
You can't be okay with investing in retirement accounts and have your same brain be okay or not okay with investing in negative cash flow real estate, as long as you know you're investing in solid investment real estate that is going to appreciate just like that stock market.
Yeah, we always say that about apartment buildings. If you have a bigger building, when it appreciates, you get that much more equity. People are like, oh yeah. You have a 30 unit compared to a 5 unit and that thing appreciates.
Yep.
You go, holy smokes, there's a lot of equity there. So it's pretty, same thing, same concept, right?
You know, being a business school guy, you're absolutely right. You got to look at that. But you also, there's two financial statements you should look at for your personal net worth. Your balance sheet and your cash flow statement. And your cash flow statement isn't just your real estate investments. It's not just your stock investments you retire. It's also your JOB, your job.
Yeah.
And keep an eye on your cash flow statement to make sure you don't go broke.
Yeah.
Also being certain that part of your cash flow statement is your job. But your cash flow statement will not make you wealthy. What makes you wealthy is your balance sheet.
Yep.
And that's every single company from Facebook to Amazon to Google to Tesla. A lot of those companies negative cash flow their first 5-10 years.
Yeah.
But their balance sheet is growing. And when you're looking at your own personal financial situation, your balance sheet should own assets that do not necessarily cash flow right now, but the value of these assets are going up, building your wealth. And anyone who wants to retire when they're like 30, I'm sorry, you must not love your job.
Yeah.
Go find a job you love.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever retire because I love my job. But your job is what should give you your cash flow in your 20s, your 30s, maybe even your 40s. Your investments should not, the primary focus of your investment should not be cash flow.
To build wealth.
When you're in 20s,
build
30s,
equity,
and 40s. It should be tax-deferred wealth growth.
Yeah.
We've been working on this for the past few months. You know we always want to bring as much value as we possibly can, and our partner, Prime Corporate Services, is all about bringing you a service you can't get anywhere else at a price you can't get anywhere else. Whether you're new to owning a business or owning a property, or you're an experienced property owner or investor, Prime Corporate Services is not only going to help you, but they're going to make the process so much easier. So if you book a call, the first thing they're going to do for you is help you understand what your business structure should look like, your corporate structure, tax planning, estate planning, all of that. Maybe you're saying, I'm brand new to starting a business and all this sounds foreign and complicated. Remember, this company helps new people just getting started every day. They're going to help you form the entity that's best for you and walk you through the process. Before I found this company, we paid thousands of dollars to other attorneys, CPAs, and consultants to try to understand exactly how we need to be structured to be as protected as possible. We've also gone the other route and used online platforms to form entities which unnecessarily put us at risk. You guys, you don't have to do that with this company. They'll do all of these things for you at a reasonable price, so you never have to think about saving money at the expense of exposing yourself to liability. We've searched high and low, and you will not find this much value anywhere else. All you have to do is schedule a free call today. Just go to primecorporateservices.info/GITCG. Once again, that's primecorporateservices.info/GITCG. We'll also leave the info for you in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point because we see, movie stars, athletes, people like that make crazy amount of money every year. Mm-hmm. And you're like, how are they broke? Because they never invested. Yep. They just kept buying crap and they don't realize half goes to taxes. They got a manager, got this, that, and at the end of it, they're like, I got nothing left because they never put it over here. And if that athlete for 10 years made $10 million a year and said, I'm going to live off this, which is a good life, and stack the other, and after 10 years, he goes, I'm out. Imagine what that would be if he just invested as much as he possibly could. Exactly. It would if he just plowed into real estate or something. I mean, it would be so massive. He'd be able to just keep up the same lifestyle. But what they do is they just go overboard, and then they don't because nothing. So I mean, there's a client of ours. He's here in San Diego, and he is an attorney. He had a really big net worth, and I was like, wow. So I got on the phone. I go, wow, did you make all this money? I joke like being an attorney. He goes, hell no. He goes, I made good money. He goes, I made all the money buying real estate. He goes, look, if I was an attorney and I bought the nice house and the nice cars and I went on all the vacations and I put some money in the 401k. I might be 10%, but he's like, it'd be nothing of this, it was like fraction. So he was just saying it was the real estate game. And then once you realize what it can do for you, it's very easy. I always tell people, once you realize what you can do with it, the tax advantages, the equity, like you said, and there is cash flow when you get to a certain level, it's very easy for you to wake up every day and go to your JOB, which hopefully you love, and you go like, no, I'm plowing money into that because I see the results. Exactly. It's just like whether if you go work out, you see results, you probably do it more. You go run, but if you go, like you're saying, in order to actually get to 10 doors, you have to start with your 4 stores. In order to run the marathon, you got to run 1 mile. Exactly. So it's the same.
Cross the starting line to get to the finish line.
It's the same thing. So let's talk about. We're both kind of data nerds. Well, I'll just say it. We love it, and I think it's kind of funny because when you realize people that study data. I made the webinar Data Over Drama, and I'm getting ready to release it, I think tomorrow. I did it on a webinar, kind of a closed one, and I'm releasing it to everybody. And I did kind of this cool video intro to it, which you'll probably, when I release it, you'll see. It was really cool. And one of the clips I have in there was, I'm forgetting his last name, the Michael guy that shorted the market in 2000.
Oh, for the Big Short.
Yeah. Yep. So it's funny, he's in the office of Goldman Sachs, the clip I have, and he goes, yeah, I want to short the housing market. And they said, wait, what? Like, why would you want to do that? You're going to lose all your money. He goes, because what you're saying is millions and millions of people are not going to make their payment. That's never happened. He goes, well, you're all wrong. And they laughed at him. Yeah. And then that was the one clip I showed, but then he was at every single bank buying all these things. And he ultimately made I don't know what his original investment was. I think it was only millions. He made 100 million personally, and he made 700 million for his clients. Mm-hmm. So I tell everybody, the reason why he did this is because he just studied the data. He saw it. Mm-hmm. And so Patrick and I are really big believers of studying data. And so let's jump into some. What do you think right now currently is probably the biggest issue right now in real estate that we face?
Lack of inventory. I mean,
saying the obvious, but not everybody knows the obvious. Yeah.
I've been studying the real estate market for almost a decade, and armed with a master's of science in real estate and MBA, I know what I'm talking about most of the time. And I don't say this to brag. I say it because I'm proud of it. Everything that has happened in the last 8 years, I preached at my webinars it was going to happen.
Well, you have it on video, so you can go back.
Myself.
You can go back. Yeah.
I've got myself recorded in the beginning of the pandemic, telling all of my clients, buy real estate now because we're going to see real estate appreciate like we've never seen before. I told people do not buy bonds during the pandemic because interest rates are all-time low. Bonds is the riskiest thing, and then we saw banks fail because they put.
Yeah, now they're good, but not then, yeah.
And I also, in 2020, said we were going to see the most inflation we've ever seen in our lifetime because the government's going to do what the government does during pandemics. They're going to toss a bunch of money in it. There's only one thing that causes inflation, not supply chain lines, not huge. It is money supply. And we saw the money supply, M2, go up so much in the market. We knew inflation would happen. And when inflation happens, anyone who owns assets becomes wealthier. Anyone who doesn't own assets becomes poor.
Yep. We're seeing it now. You're seeing it now. Yeah.
Exactly. So we literally made millionaires out of people by they listened to us. I hear people say all the time that nobody has a crystal ball. Yeah, we do. It's called data. Data is what you see inside of the crystal ball, and it is often very predictive of what's going to happen. So now all my webinars, I start with a slide that says bottom line up front. Bottom line is we don't have an interest rate problem. Never had an interest rate problem. Interest rates can go up and down, up and down. We have a housing inventory problem. And we simply have not built enough in the last decade plus. We are still not building enough. We will never build enough. I am 42, and I believe I will die with this housing problem still in existence because we just haven't built enough for these mega generations coming. Millennials, the Gen Zers that want to buy housing.
Yeah, look at the chart, how many there are. We're in the peak of them too.
Yeah.
Because if you look at 1990, the average buyers, the millennials, 33 to 63, 33 to 36. And it's 1990. You just add the years. We're right here. We're right in the peak of it. This is where the peak of them, where the birth rate was.
So here's the crystal ball. Here's exactly what's going to happen in the next 12 months. And I won't give you predictions. I will give you crystal ball. This is going to happen.
Okay.
Interest rates, the spread between the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year fix is pretty wide right now. So
You know what that is?
the spread right now is about 3%.
Oh, do you know why? Or
I would assume it's because lenders really don't want to give loans right now.
no, so I'll tell you.
That spread did close.
I'll tell you exactly.
You're the mortgage guy.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So I'll tell you. So a servicing company, right? So you get a loan, and then all of a sudden, next you know, it's like Mr. Cooper has your servicing, right?
Yep.
Well, they buy that servicing. If they don't hold that mortgage, you're going to get it right away. For 3 to 5 years, they lose money.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they know Patrick's going to refi. So they're like,
because rates are going to go down.
but they're not in the business of losing money. So they said, hey, Patrick, sure, I'll give you your loan. But oh, by the way, I'm not going to lose. So sorry, I'm going to tack on 1.2% to your mortgage rate to protect my ass. Yep. That's why you're seeing that. That's literally the
Which ultimately is lenders, really the second man holding that loan, doesn't want to hold these loans unless they're getting a nice spread.
Yeah.
But that spread is eventually going to condense to the normal 1.5, 1.8%. And if we hit a recession, my God, I kind of hope we do, because that'll be good for housing. But if we don't, whatever. But we know that rates are likely going to go down. They might go a little up, a little down, a little up, a little down. But over the long term, they'll be going down. So what's going to happen when interest rates go down? We still have the same supply issue we had at the beginning. You are going to see home values skyrocket. And we hit an all-time high in San Diego last April. $1 million was the median sales price of a single family. I'm seeing we're going to surpass $1 million median sales price this year. In the last 3 months, Kenny, you know, we went from like around 7% interest rates down to the mid sixes. San Diego home values shot up 11% in 3 months just because we went from 7 to 6.5. What's going to happen when we go 6.5 to 5.5? You are going to see. We started the year around $850 median sales price. Now we're around $950. We'll hit $1 million within.
I tell everybody, you want to be refining when the conventional rate's at 5. You don't want to be buying. Thank you.
You want to buy now.
Yeah, it's people. I go. Yeah. I literally, you know this. I tell everybody, I'm like, pick a year where the inventory started higher and it's lower now. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're living in it.
Yeah.
Every year it's lower and higher. We're going into May and our inventory's right above 2,000. I'm like, people, do you understand how?
And in normal years, we're around.
Why do you think that is?
10
I
to
want to
12,000.
get your opinion. Why do you think that is? Why do you think?
Two reasons.
I just want to know your thoughts. I mean, I know there's a lot, but what do you think?
2 reasons we have low inventory. The long-term reason that will not get fixed, and the short-term reason that will eventually get fixed. The long-term is we just haven't built enough in the last 10 years. And that's going to be around for decades. But the real acute problem is we had rates at 2.25%, 3.25%, 4.25%, and something like over 70% of San Diego homeowners are at 4% or low. If you are sitting on a mortgage, 30-year fixed with 3.5% interest rate, 4% interest rate, why would you sell your home with a 4.5%?
The average rate's 3.78.
3 points. There you go.
Come on. I mean,
why would you sell
that's across the whole nation.
You're not going to sell your home.
And you and I know anybody that has really good credit in this, they're sub 3.5, sub 2, sub 3, sub 2 for 3.5 for sure. Like
that's why inventory is a fraction of what it usually is. In the homes that are being listed and are for sale, it's death, it's divorce, it's job change, you named it. But
it's not a
move up buyers. Are holding tight. But, you know, where
do you think the rate needs to be at to get people to move?
I think we need to be sub 5. I think once we get to 5, because you just mentioned, you know, the average around 3.7 something. I think once we get to 5, high 4s, people will be like, all right, I don't love my house. I love my mortgage, but I'm willing to move out of this house I no longer love because now I got 3 kids and I used to have 1. I'm willing to move out and get a 1% higher rate.
Or I can buy the rate down. And I'm close. I'm at low 4s, you know, or something.
Yes, yeah. But we will never get to a full healthy, probably a decade or so, full healthy market. Because here's another situation. You've got a lot of homeowners like me sitting on a 2.25% interest rate. A lot of people below 3s. When they're ready to go buy their next house, if they can handle the down payment of the next house without having to sell their current house, they're going to turn it into a rental.
Yeah.
So we bought a house, and anyone who owned real estate in 2021, 2022 did refis, and I got this 2.25% mortgage rate on a beautiful home that I will never sell. I will rent it to college kids before I sell that house because the low interest rate's an asset.
What's your prediction? If our inventory is at 2,000, right? Let's say rates by the end of the year hit 5% unconventional. Let's just assume, okay? Let's just say we just plow to that number, which isn't like crazy, especially if the spread comes down. If the spread came down in the 10-year, where do you think inventory would be San Diego? Where do you think we'd be at?
We know this. Normal San Diego inventory at this time of the year is usually around 10 to 12,000,
okay.
and this is pre-pandemic. So we know if rates came down to relatively similar rates to what are currently on homeowners' homes.
Okay.
Like if, normal rates are like 4 or 5s, maybe 6s. And we know when rates are around what homeowners have, we've got 10, 12,000 for sale. I don't think we would have 10 to 12,000 homes for sale ever in San Diego unless rates got to 3% or below, which we know is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think even if we got down to 5 or even to 4, we're still going to have less than 10,000, less than what we historically would have. I'd say maybe 5, 6, 7,000.
Which is
still a tight market.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, guys, I don't think for the next 10, 20, 30 years, we will have a normal, healthy market, if ever again. Because in land-constricted areas and politically constricted areas, like San Diego, where it is expensive and sometimes it's cost prohibitive to build sometimes, we just can't add the inventory. And I look at who's moving in here. You hear a lot of times people say everyone's leaving California, everyone's leaving San Diego. Not true. Our population growth is actually growing.
Okay.
And I also say if you want to know what's going to happen to the value of real estate in a marketplace, it doesn't matter as much how many people are moving in and out. It matters who is moving in and out. The people moving out of California, the people moving out of San Diego are the people that can't afford it. And they don't affect home prices that much anyway because they're not the ones buying homes. The people moving into San Diego, and trust me, there's a mass migration of people moving into San Diego. They have master's degrees. They work in technology and biotech. They're in their 20s and 30s, and they're making a very healthy 6-figure salary. We just spoke with a client yesterday. She's 24 years old, making $220,000 a year. That's who's moving into San Diego. Why? Because if you're making $220,000 a year and you can live anywhere in the United States,
let's go to San Diego.
You're gonna live in San Diego.
Hello.
12 months of summer.
Yeah.
And we've got one of the fastest growing biotech industries in the world. And a LinkedIn study just came out late last year that said the city in the United States with the highest growth rate of tech talent of all cities, including San Francisco, is San Diego.
Wow.
No city has faster tech talent growth than San Diego.
Wow. And we're building, if you go around, we're building office building for biotech and tech because in order to get them here, they want Class A. That's why you see people tearing down like what are they doing? They're building Class A.
That's right.
If you build it, they will come. They will, like San Francisco, they're leaving because that's a mess. But down here, they're building Class A. It's not even enough, and that's why you're seeing them all come here. It's very easy to recruit here too. One of Crystal and I, we met this lady that's very happy in a biotech. She raises money and invests in biotech. She's done really well, very successful here in San Diego. And I asked her, I said, what happened to San Diego? Like during the crash, last crash, biotech kind of exited. She said, yeah. And I said, but then I noticed it's back. And she says, a lot of people went to Seattle and, Boston. Those are the two things. But she's like, but also Kenny is like, a lot of people don't want to live there. And so she said, now everybody kind of came back here over time because they wanted to be here. Now they're, building this because it's like, hey, Patrick and Kenny, I'm going to give you this much money. Do you want to live in Boston or San Diego? Yeah, we'll go to San Diego. It's easier. So she just said, everybody wants to be here. And so not only what Patrick just said is those type of people are moving here, but who else is moving here? Billionaires, 100 millionaires that have exits that are just making this their primary residence, things like that. A lot of big money is moving in here, which is great. Second home, third home, primary home. They're tired of LA. They're tired of San Francisco. And if you guys don't understand this, I know it's hard to believe. If you just go up the coast to Laguna, to Malibu, to Newport, to Santa Barbara, to this is a deal here for the big.
San Diego's cheap.
Go to Rancho Santa Fe. You can buy a $20 million house and you put the same house in Bel Air, it's $50-80 million, and it's Bel Air. It's not. So I'm just saying, it's the bang for the buck for the wealthy is unbelievable here.
Well, and so breaking it back to like people that might be listening to this who aren't billionaires or let's say you got a normal job, you're making $80,000 a year. And you're wondering, well, how do I make that money in San Diego? Well, it goes back to, I was an English major in undergrad at Naval Academy, and I always like a good thesis statement. And my webinars all start with a thesis statement. And my thesis statement on my San Diego market update is San Diego today is San Francisco circa 1990. And then I show a chart of what happened to San Francisco real estate values compared to the rest of the nation in the 1990s and early 2000s due to the tech boom, the silicon chip boom. Now we call it Silicon Valley. And San Diego today is at that very beginning birth of massive technology deciding it's going to home port itself in San Diego. And it's biotech, and you see that in the numbers. San Diego, on average, for the last 20 years, brings in about $1.1 billion per year, 20-year average on venture capital money. In 2021, that number went from 1.1 billion to over 9.8 billion.
Wow.
You can't take a city like San Diego and infuse 1.1 billion a year for 20 years, and then all of a sudden you're infusing 9 billion.
It doesn't just, this isn't a coincidence.
It's blowing up in the tech. So I look at all my clients and I say, look, and to those of you listening out there who, you make 80,000, how do you make millions? Well, you didn't have to work in tech in San Francisco to become a millionaire in the 90s and early 2000s. You just had to buy a $500,000 condo. And 10 years later, it's worth $2 million. Same thing is already happening, but we're still at the very early phases. You can get in early. It's almost like getting into a venture capital company firm. It's like getting into a startup. When you get into a city like San Diego at the startup of the biotech growth. And I tell my clients, look, you buy a $500,000 condo today in San Diego, you will be a millionaire. You do not need to work in biotech. You don't need to work in tech. You can be a school teacher, but you buy that $500,000, mark my word, in 20 years, you're going to have a couple $1 million.
Oh, I 100% agree. Yeah. There is so much upside to, that's why a lot of people are like, why don't you guys look all over the country to invest? I said, why?
Yeah.
This is the spot.
There's so much foreign money that wants to come into San Diego, not Timbuktu, Midwest. It's coming into San Diego. No, I always tell people, if you want to become a millionaire, invest out of state, invest in the Midwest. If you want to become a filthy, wealthy decamillionaire, invest in San Diego.
Yep.
One of the wealthiest people I knew, she since passed away, grandmother of one of my friends, she was a math teacher. She was a public school math teacher. I was a public school math teacher, like 8th grade math, become one of the wealthiest people I ever knew. She passed away a couple of years ago, net worth probably around $50 million as a public school teacher. Because in the 1960s and through the 70s and through the 80s and through the 90s, she started buying real estate.
Yep.
Bought a house, bought a condo, 1031 it into an apartment, and she just kept buying. As a single woman, by the way, her husband had passed away. And she built this massive $50 million portfolio as a public school teacher. And I love that example. I tell you, I knew her. The first time I met her, believe it or not, is when I went to her funeral. And it sounds weird, I know, but I have a lot of respect for my friend, and I had so much respect for what her grandmother did. That I took a day off when her grandmother passed, and I said, I know your grandma's your mentor. She taught you everything you knew, and let me go honor this woman to serve such a good example.
That's awesome.
Again, back to my mentors. A lot of my mentors, they don't know me, but I know them.
Yeah,
and you
don't need to. Yeah, we have a cool story of a lady she's a school teacher that's moved up. I think she's a principal, but she's about 35 million in real estate, and she's active buying right now, and she's got room to go. And she's like, you don't need to make much. You just, like you said, just do it.
Do it. And that's why I love what my brokerage team does. That's why I love what your team does. I used to work in commercial real estate brokerage, and in commercial brokerage, it's about making wealthy people even wealthier.
Yeah, it really is.
I love making normal, everyday, sweat of the earth people, because that's what I was raised into. I like making those people wealthy Make them a millionaire, make them a multimillionaire, make them whatever. And it's not for the sake of money. I mean, you know me, Kenny. I drive a 2004 pickup truck.
Yeah.
And my shoes are probably 5 years old. I don't know. Because I don't like spending money.
You just don't care, yeah.
Except on real estate.
Yeah.
And I love getting I used to live in I used to work at McDonald's. I ate ramen noodles. I used to I was poor. And it's scary when you don't have money. It's scary when you don't know what's going to happen if you don't get paid for 2 months because you don't have the savings. That's scary. And I like to get people from that place of fear of money to a place of, instead of allowing that money to control them or the lack of it, getting to a point where you learn how to control money. And money, I don't want to belittle it or make it sound trite, but it's a man-made invention. And it is nothing but numbers on spreadsheets, computer screens, and account numbers. And if in life, if you can learn by studying finance, by studying real estate, by studying the tax code, if you can learn how to make those numbers get bigger on the screen in front of you by making decisions. Big money doesn't come from work. Again, I've heard people say there's a lot of hardworking poor people. There are. Big money comes from decisions. Another thing I talked about with this kid at dinner last night. And if you learn how to make the right decisions to make that money grow, you'll eventually get to a spot where money, lack of it, doesn't control you. You control it. And you always have to still honor the fact that if you're foolish, it can get back to controlling you again by buying stuff you should not buy.
Yeah, I think it's hard. We live in a very fast-paced world. It's very easy to do that, but Patrick, so where can people learn more about you, find you? And also, I know you put on an awesome webinar. Yeah. How can people get access to that webinar?
The easiest way I always say to find me is just go into Google and type in my name. Patrick Kappel, Kappel. Patrick Kappel. And you'll see a bunch of links on me. You'll probably see some recorded YouTube videos, but you'll also see my website, which is kappelrealtygroup.com, again, spelt with a K. And on that website, top left, drop-down menu, there's a link that says Real Estate Webinars. Click on that. You see all of our upcoming webinars. It's a phenomenal team, and, I might work with some of you out there. I might never work with some of you out there, but I hope that I can educate 100% of you out there. So please just tap into that website, look up the webinars, Google my name, and I love educating people. My mom and dad were both high school teachers as well.
That's so funny.
And maybe that's why I love education.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you're great at it. You have a passion. I mean, you guys, your team, you're really good. You're a good leader. And you guys, if you're buying a regular house or buying a 2 to 4, Patrick really has a great background and people on his team too to help you walk you through, find good deals. They know what good deals are. And that is a challenge for a lot of people is they switch from the house to 2 to 4 unit. You got to make sure you're working with somebody. I hate to say this, but you have to make sure you're working with somebody. I had a conversation with a guy last night saying, nobody's showing me what a good deal is. Like, well, then you're working with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And that's literally, this is what happens. So it's really important to say some people are really good at selling the $10 million houses, and some people are really good at selling apartment buildings, and some people are good at selling condos, and some people are really good at selling 2 to 4 units. But for somebody to say, I do it all, it's mostly unlikely. And the guy that sells the $10 million house is probably like, hey, you know what? Let me give you over here my buddy that's good at commercial or 2 to 4 or that condo you have. I'm more in this luxury market. I think you'd be suited best over here.
That's right. My team doesn't do 10 million homes. We don't do the luxury market. We do like 2 million and below, which in San Diego, 2 million is not luxury.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Believe it or not. My team, though, does specialize in a lot of those house hacking folks. And 2 to 4s, in fact, about 6 to 7% of all the 2 to 4s that sell in San Diego County, our team does. And our team's only been around for 3 years, but we just dominate that 2 to 4 unit market.
Yeah.
And it's what
it's a passion. You guys are all passionate about it. Love it. And that's why you're good at it, right?
Love it.
Well, Patrick, thanks for coming in. Love the story.
Thank you, Kenny. I love coming into your office, love talking to you because we're cut of the same cloth.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Very much.
Awesome.
If you're already a real estate investor, you know that aside from cash flow, you also get huge tax benefits by investing in real estate. But are you taking full advantage of all the potential tax benefits? We've been working with Tim Looney at CSSI for a few years now, and he's saved us and our clients hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in taxes doing cost segregation studies on their properties. Let me give you a few examples. We bought a property in 2019. If we had just used straight line depreciation, we would have saved about $18,750 in taxes. But because we did a cost seg, we saved $258,000. That's $239,350 more than standard straight line depreciation in the first year. The other great thing is, if you're classified as a real estate professional, you can apply this to other sources of income like W-2 or 1099 income, and you can also roll over any unused depreciation to future years. If you've owned your properties for a few years already, don't worry, you can still do a cost seg and save big on your taxes. This is not tax advice, so consult your CPA to see if you qualify to take advantage of these benefits. Call or text Tim at 318-469-9861 to get your complimentary property analysis. Once again, that's 318-469-9861. And I'll also include his information in the show notes. You guys don't want to miss out on these tax savings.